Well, each generation is trying to figure out how to best navigate this whole financial and retirement planning world. So on today's show, we're going to look at two generations in particular, those who are really up against the clock when it comes to planning for retirement. First of all, it's going to be the baby boomers.
Right.
They're right around the corner or already retiring as we speak. We know all the stats and have heard all the information about how fast that's happening. Yep. But it's also on the horizon for Gen X. And so we're going to talk to Gen Xers today as well and talk about the questions that each generation needs to be asking to better prepare for retirement. Let's get to it.
Let's do it.
Welcome to the Time Blueprint with Frank Oliver of Oliver Asset Management. Here we break down taxes, income, money, and estate planning, giving you the tools to make informed financial decisions and aim for better retirement outcomes. Your host is financial advisor Frank Oliver, the president and founder of Oliver Asset Management. He's the author of Your Time Is Now, sharing the essentials you need to know to craft a comprehensive and customized retirement plan. Dive in with us as we offer clear strategies and straightforward advice, all designed to empower you in your financial journey. Welcome to the Time Blueprint.
All right, we're talking about generational financial planning, the key questions for baby boomers, Gen X on today's show. Frank, we'll jump to all that in a moment. But first of all, what you looking forward to most this spring as we pull out of winter here?
Well, April 15th, the marina opens up. So you know what that means for me.
Oh, you're going to be on the lake.
Right.
Yeah,
Yes, Friday at noon through Sunday at noon. I'll be spending my day at Horsetooth, so my weekends at Horsetooth. So yeah. Out there, get a little hiking in.
Okay.
I'll try to do a little more fishing this year.
Oh, nice.
Yeah,
okay.
we got a cabin up by Walden. I don't spend quite enough time there, so I think we're going to try to balance the lake a little bit with some more fishing, hiking, getting up to the cabin. So
nice.
I'm looking forward to it.
That'd be fun. Fly fishing or just bobber?
Love to fly fish.
Okay.
I almost went up to Poudre Canyon the other day.
Oh, very nice.
Yeah, it was a little cold. I should have toughed it out, but it just, I'm not necessarily a fair weather fisherman, but fairish.
Fairish.
Yeah,
fairish.
yeah.
Okay, gotcha. Yeah, if you could find a sunny spot, you might have been all right.
Exactly. Yeah.
That's very cool.
That'd be fun. What about you?
Love the Poudre. We are going to do a little more camping this year is one of our goals.
Yeah.
So we've got a couple of camping sites booked for the year, and so bust out the tent and get into that a little bit. And I have a couple of 14er goals on my list. I want to at least do a couple this year. So
really,
yeah.
Okay,
so I'm going to try a couple.
That's very exciting. Which ones do you have picked?
I'm going to try some of the easier ones.
Okay,
so
all right.
I'll let you know. I'm narrowing the list down. I'm not going to go out and
maybe
do
you
Long
should invite
Peak.
me.
Okay,
no, Long Peak's not a good one to start with.
Yeah, I've heard that's not where you want to begin.
The keyhole gets kind of challenging. So let me.
We'll save
I may roll with you.
All right, that sounds good.
Yeah,
let's do it. We'll let you know how it goes, folks.
Yeah.
All right, let's talk about these retirement generations and get into these questions. So let's talk baby boomers first, since that's who you're working with, I'm sure, pretty much each and every day, right?
Yeah, primarily. Yep, absolutely.
So just for technicality purposes, we're talking 1946 to 1964, somewhere in that range. They are already retired, they're at retirement age, or they're going to be there over the next couple of years.
Right.
So what are some of the questions that folks who have retirement right around the corner really needing to be thinking about for that transition?
Well, that's kind of the red zone retirement planning there, 5 years before, 5 years after retirement.
Yeah.
So the 5 years before retirement, I think we really need to be making sure that everything, all of their ducks are in a row. Making sure that the retirement date is picked appropriately. That we've run the plan to say, okay, is your debt been reduced enough? Do you have enough money saved? Do we need to work another few years to delay Social Security another few years, pay debt down another few years, contribute to the 401k for another few years? Or are you in good shape? Are you taking on too much risk? I'm not opposed to the stock market. I'm not opposed to a little bit of risk in the stock market. But again, when we go back to my all famous bucketizing strategy, I think we need to start preparing for the bucket number 2, which is the income bucket. Because if we go through another 2022, and somebody's looking at retiring in 3 to 5 years starting today, 3 to 5 years is going to happen pretty quick, and we could have another 2022. So we need to start looking at getting some portion of those assets protected, put some principal protection on those guys. That way, in the event the market does have a downturn, you can still retire and not be frightened of the markets. So determine what you need right now for an income stream, portion out a percentage of those assets to produce that income, for the next 3 to 5 years.
Okay. So income, timing, risk, all of those things should be kind of top top questions.
100%. 100%. Yep.
What about healthcare? Where does that start rising up the list of important things to talk about?
Yeah, it absolutely does. And healthcare is just so darn expensive, in our country. So folks that retire before Medicare age, they really have a big challenge with affording those healthcare premiums. So we do try to, recommend that folks do not retire until they, can get on Medicare.
Yeah.
Unless they have substantial assets and are willing just to pay for that. And, sometimes, sometimes in their, in their life's journey, if you will, they're like, you know what, if I have to pay these premiums for 3 years, it's worth it. I'm ready to retire. It just doesn't mean that much to me. It's going to hurt.
Yeah.
But retirement's that important to me. I need to enjoy my life. So, but, you can just add that into the plan. If you can afford the healthcare premiums, even though it's going to hurt and it fits into your plan, then by all means, maybe there's still a chance you could retire a little bit early.
Well, it's a great illustration, not to veer too off of our conversation today, but I think you just bring up something important that anybody could learn from. And it's that, it's not always, it sounds to me like the planning is not always about what's the best math answer to the question.
Right.
It's what are we willing to live with? What trade-offs are we willing to make happen to make you live the goals and the lifestyle that you want? And sometimes that is, hey, we're going to spend more, but it's going to open up this opportunity.
Absolutely. I mean, I don't think they're going to put on your tombstone, Walter waited till age 65 to get
right.
Medicare.
You don't have to wear that as a badge,
exactly,
right? Yeah.
Right? Nobody cares when you elected, if you had to pay, your own health insurance premiums for a couple
just
years.
Because you said that, I'm going to request that be on my tombstone,
on your tombstone
one day. Yeah.
You're going to outlive me, so I won't be the one to put it on there. But yeah, and it's something that I've learned over 20 years is we're numbers guys here. Our office is built off of running formulas, scenarios, and numbers. But it's probably been the last 10 years I've really, tried to add a little more focus on lifestyle planning as well.
Okay.
Because I think, in all too many cases, people end up passing away with a substantial amount of funds when they could have enjoyed their life a little bit sooner. Mathematically, it didn't make sense, but at the end, did it still probably make sense? If they enjoyed their life and they still retired comfortably, then there's some merit to that, by all means.
I mean, you bring up a great visual, though, of the tombstone and what it says on there. I mean, it does make a long sense.
Totally.
Here lies Walter, who waited until full Social Security age to take his benefit.
Right. I got my
good
Medicare.
Job, buddy. Not that you shouldn't do that or that's the right choice, but you're not wearing that as a badge.
Different approaches, and I guess that's just where a good, solid financial plan comes in, is if you can still afford to do that, maybe... Maybe there's some merit to that.
I think it's a great lesson for sure.
Yep.
All right. One more question about baby boomers on my mind, and it has to do with a little bit of a different direction, more on relocation, downsizing, those kinds of things.
Right.
Obviously, it's a conversation that comes up, but I'm curious, do most people already have their minds made up on downsizing or relocation by the time they come to speak with you, or are you helping navigate people through those choices as well?
Yeah, probably a combination of both. I have clients upsizing right now that are in their 60s.
Okay.
They just kind of want their forever house.
Yeah.
But I think it just depends on, did I save enough, or is most of my asset base tied up in my primary residence, right?
Okay.
So at that point, maybe it does make sense to downsize. I have the question posed a lot, should I purchase another house or should I just rent? And this, it's interesting because that generation, home ownership was very, very important. Now I see that same generation where home ownership was very, very important, wondering how important it is. When you have $500,000 in Colorado, to have $500,000 equity in your house is nothing.
Yeah.
We're such a wonderful state when it comes to value appreciation. But, to take that $500,000 and tie it up in another piece of real estate, and you can't use the $500,000, maybe there is some merit today, even as expensive as rents are, but to have some access to that $500,000. And maybe if I have a lot of clients say, I'm not really opposed to rent if I can have access to that $500,000 and go enjoy it and travel and have fun with it.
Sure.
Let the house kind of take care of me for a while. So I don't think there's any problem with downsizing. And I never thought I'd say this until the last maybe 4 or 5 years. And it was actually the question brought up by some clients wanting to know, what do you think about renting? And you kind of look at that. You keep my $500,000 and pay out a couple $1,000s a month for rent. Maybe there's something to that.
Yeah.
So,
another great example where everybody's going to have a bit of a different opinion on that or feeling about how that would impact them or what they would think about it.
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
Those are the kinds of things you need to be talking about and questioning during the planning process.
Yeah, I don't think you roll anything out. I think I don't know why anybody want to explore all of their options and just kind of think outside the box a little bit. And, sometimes the old school traditional thinking that got us to where we're at is great, but sometimes just looking at some different options is not a bad idea.
Great point for baby boomers. listeners, if you've kind of approached your finances over the years of just like really focused on what investments do I need to be making and just looking at that number growing in your 401k or your IRA, it's just like so many more questions start to blossom as you get closer to retirement, and that's what you really need to embrace.
Right.
The financial conversation with your planner, with your financial advisor needs to be about those things. If you're not having those kinds of conversations, hit Frank up and have that conversation. We'll tell you the ways you can get in touch with Frank here in a minute, but you can always check the description of today's show for links and contact information. All right, let's hit Generation X, because you might not have been working with a lot of Gen X
it is the
previously.
best generation, though.
I think you might have some bias here. I'm gonna guess. Let's see. Was Frank born between 1965 and 1976?
What's your guess?
I'm gonna put money on that.
There you go.
So yeah, you're in that 1965, 1976 range. It sounds like. So you're starting to get to where retirement planning is becoming a little bit more important, I would imagine. And, and you're working with a lot more Gen Xers.
I absolutely am.
Okay.
Yeah. Much more than I ever was in the past.
Okay.
I think as they get closer to retirement, they're looking for more professional help.
Okay. That's the big difference from maybe even like the millennials is now instead of DIYing, they're starting to see.
Yeah. And I think a lot of the Gen Xers have done a decent job as far as contributing to their 401k, but as many of them know, most of the funds inside of a 401k are target date funds. Mm-hmm. So you basically just pick the year you want to retire, and the target date fund does the rest for you. It doesn't mean that's necessarily your best option. It's not very customizable. It's kind of a one size fits all.
I mean, you might have been 25, 30, even 35, and you're starting with a company, and here's some options. And you're like, I don't know, I'll just pick this one, and then all this money gets piled into this one fund. That's common, right?
Yeah, it is. And it does go to show the strength of dollar cost averaging and consistent investing and matching, 401k matches and contributing to your 401k for 20 and 30 years. It's amazing what you can amass if you do that. It seems to take a while, but now the Gen Xers are realizing I've done a pretty good job.
Yeah.
What do I do with it now? And I think, what I've seen, because I'm a Gen Xer, I was born in 1968. I'm on the young end of the Gen Xers. Okay. Right? But 68 was a great year, I got to tell you. We had the best music in the 80s, I got to tell you. But I mean, I have no aspirations of retiring anytime soon. I can do this job for the rest of my life. But I do see a lot of my friends that are Gen Xers starting to talk about retirement and ask questions. I have a lot of friends that are clients. And so I can kind of see what's on their mind. And it's interesting to see my friends that I went to high school with talking about driving cars when we're 16 that are now asking me retirement questions. Okay. So, I think as we get, 5, 6, 7, 8 years away from retirement, we realize how fast that creeps up on us.
Yeah. You start looking at what happened in your previous 5 to 8 years of life.
That's right.
And you go, wow.
Yeah.
Okay. It's not as far away as I thought it might be.
And I think we have a greater understanding of procrastination and how if we do that for another 2 or 3 years, we may be too late, at this race. So,
and that's one thing that Gen X can start taking advantage of, right? Is catch up. If someone does feel like they're a little behind, don't they get more opportunities for catch up contributions?
Yeah, there's catch up contributions, catch up provisions on 401ks, Roths, traditional IRAs. So you definitely should be taking advantage of that. I think really trying to determine when you can retire. Do you have your ducks in a row? So I think that's where the retirement planning is very important, because people always want to know when they can retire.
Yeah.
But they don't really have all the numbers. They don't know what their Social Security benefit is. They're unaware of the catch-up contributions. They can't formulate catch-up contributions. What I have, how much am I gonna have if that returns 5%? What if I retire at 60 versus 65? And those are some floating puzzle pieces that if they continue to float around in your mind, you're really not going to have a defined plan, and your outcomes may not be what you want.
Okay.
So I think it is important. It's, for folks my age to really start to, determine what is my Social Security?
Yeah.
When am I going to retire? What do I have? And how much can I contribute? And what's that going to be worth if it averages, let's say, 5% until I retire? Okay. And then really determine, based on my expenses and my retirement objectives, am I on track?
Yeah.
And it's a good time to start. You don't want to think about this 6 months before retirement.
Right.
6 years, you got some room to work. Yeah.
So my generation, the millennials, I think we were the ones that started this whole FIRE mentality. I don't know if you remember that. It was kind of a buzzword for a couple of years. I don't know, freedom from work. People were retiring at like 30 and 40.
You guys do have an interesting, heritage with the millennial generation.
30, 35. People are like, I'm retired, and it's like, well, you're not really retired. You're just taking a break from work, it sounds like to me. But
it's all wanted to be podcasters.
Yeah, exactly. Right. Yeah, we all want to be YouTube stars.
Right, influencers.
Yeah, influencers. So, but I think it highlights that our generation, if I'm projecting a couple of years into the future, I think we're going to have a ton of focus on people wanting to retire early. And
I can see that.
I'm curious in your experience with Gen Xers, because they've seen what their parents have gone through. They're seeing what the baby boomers are going through now. Do you see that Gen Xers are wanting to ask that, hey, can I retire early question?
Yeah, I do. And I don't know if it's a generational situation. I don't have a lot of Gen Xers really wanting to work till age 70.
Okay.
I do have some baby boomers that are in their 60s still working, and they're like, I enjoy my job, and maybe they deep down inside feel they haven't saved enough, or maybe they just have no problems working. It's a working generation.
Yeah.
The baby boomers are definitely, or the baby boomers are a working generation.
For sure.
Our generation is as well, but I can see people in my generation, definitely wanting to retire a little bit early.
Yeah.
Maybe 60 is a stretch.
With each generation, that's people are going to want to retire earlier and earlier, while the official retirement age is probably going to push further and further back.
And you wonder how that's going to impact, our country and the economy, right? Is it going to open up opportunities of people retiring sooner, or is it going to create an unemployment issue? So it's some interesting stats for sure.
It will be, well, especially if you throw AI and all robotics and job replacements and all that into the mix.
Exactly. Yeah.
Who knows? Yeah. All right. Anything else Gen Xers should know, or that cover it pretty good for now at least?
Get a plan started now before you retire.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Never too early to start, right? I mean, even if somebody's 10 years away from retirement, they can still be making good decisions now and meeting with a planner like you.
It's never too early to start. Okay. I just, I feel that as people get, 10 years is probably a good time frame, but I see when people are, 5 to 8 years out from retirement, that it seems to, I don't know if the urgency is there. It seems to start to make some more sense to put that together. Where 10 years, it's like, I got plenty of time. But yeah, you're right. It's never too soon to start.
So if that gives you an idea of your horizon, if you're wanting to retire at 60 and you're 50, well, start talking about it a little bit.
Right.
Right. If you're 5 years out, definitely time to come in and talk about it.
Yeah. Okay. That's tight into the red zone at that point.
Yeah. All right. Very good. Yep. So if you want to come in, meet with Frank Oliver and the team at Oliver Asset Management, just go to the website. It's oliverassetmanagement.com. We've linked to it in the description of today's show as well. You can also call 720-897-TIME. When you come in, you'll get a copy of Frank's book, and you'll get your own time blueprint helping you navigate taxes, income, money, and estate planning, and get a great free strategy session. You can book that online at a time that's convenient for you. Ask questions that are on your mind. Also, check out the events tab for upcoming lunchtime learning workshops that Frank and the team are hosting all the time as well. So if you want to kind of learn a little bit more with a group of peers, you actually could look through the window and see the podcast studio.
Exactly. We're doing some dinner time educational series workshops as well now. So that'll be on the events tab.
Excellent. So lunch, dinner, you'll have a couple of options usually to check out there. So all that's linked in the description of today's show. We're not done yet. Coming up, we're going to get to know Frank a little bit better, and we've got a viewer question to hit before we wrap things up today as well. All right, it's time to get to know Frank a little bit better on today's show. We're talking movies today, Frank.
All right. But who doesn't love a good movie?
Yeah, okay. Right. So we're talking movie locations, I guess. So I kind of fooled you a little bit there. Not movies specifically. We can talk movies if you want to. Do you prefer to watch a movie at home, or do you like going out to the theater still?
Well, I guess that depends on if you know my spouse or not. So Brittany,
and if she's going to watch the movie with you?
That's right. If she's going to watch the movie with me. My wife does not like movie theaters.
Interesting.
Don't ask me why. She doesn't like movie theaters. So
has she ever explained it to you?
No, she just doesn't like movie theaters.
Just don't
they serve popcorn. How do you not like movie theaters?
Like
right?
With lots of butter.
You got the big screen. I don't know. She just likes to watch them at the comfort of her house, I guess. So happy wife, happy life. So I don't get to go to movie theaters.
Yeah.
So,
all right. So if she was on a vacation for 2 weeks and for some reason you weren't on the vacation and you were going to watch a movie, are you going to the theater, or are you also at home at that point?
I don't mind movie theaters, but I don't know if I'd go watch a movie by myself.
You're not going to go seek it out. If someone's like, "Hey, Frank, let's go to the movies," you'd be like, "All right, I'll go to the theater."
Maybe I might. Okay. Yeah, that's why you have Netflix, right? And Amazon Prime and Hulu.
It is hard to beat the convenience of home these days.
I know. They are stepping up on the theaters, though.
So I did go to a movie in the theater recently.
Okay,
and it had heaters in the seat, not only reclining, but they actually had heaters.
That's a game changer.
This is actually pretty good.
That is pretty cool. Yeah. That's a game changer.
But I will tell you what, $15, $16, $17 for a box of popcorn and a small drink.
Now here's something that I still can't figure out. Right. So I just bought a new car.
Okay.
And it's you can watch Hulu and Netflix in your car.
In the car.
Like
okay.
on the front screen, not the back screen for the
on
kids.
the front. Yeah.
On the front. So I'm not really sure that
Not
I'm
while
going to
you're
go.
driving, though, right?
I don't think so. I haven't tried it out yet.
Unless
I'm sure that the technology would turn that off.
I feel like the rules are that you can't while you're driving.
I'm sure that
have
that's
on that
probably
front
a
screen.
pretty safe, piece of technology.
I'm sure
to
you could
have
probably
in
hack
place.
it though.
Probably. So then, when are you going to watch it? Maybe somebody's got an answer for me. Maybe they could call in with that answer because. Am I going to just go down to my garage and sit in my car and watch Hulu or Netflix? That seems a little odd, right?
I feel like I'm sitting in my car a decent amount of time. Maybe Connie and I are out running errands and I don't want to go into the store at a particular place. You could throw it on there and watch it for a little bit.
When she's out shopping for purses or whatever.
Sure, yeah. She's at Boot Barn getting a hat or something,
Again, Amazon, dude.
Yeah. We buy plenty of stuff on Amazon.
Yeah, I bet, doesn't
she still
everybody?
likes a little bit of window shopping.
Yeah,
from
I
time
get
to
it.
time.
I get it. Yeah.
So you got to scratch that itch occasionally, I guess.
So no movie theaters for me.
Yeah. I
Maybe
mean,
one
I've
day.
probably been to like 3 in the last 5 years.
All right.
So,
Okay.
it's an occasional thing.
That's why you're down 15 pounds. You look fantastic. No more buttered popcorn, right?
Definitely limiting that butter popcorn.
Yes, that's good, man.
That
Good
stuff
for
is
you.
good, though, for
Yes,
sure.
It is, yeah.
All right, let's get to a viewer question. We've got one from David coming up next. All right, so this question is from the mailbag. David sending this one in. You can submit your questions on oliverassetmanagement.com. David says, Frank, I'm not planning on dying anytime soon.
Good.
Okay,
It's good to hear, David.
But my wife is 9 years younger than me, and I want to be sure that she's taken care of when I'm gone. Should I take out a big life insurance policy on myself?
David, I think that's an outstanding question.
Yeah.
And I paused there for just a little bit because insurance has such a bad reputation.
Okay.
And I don't really understand why. I think so we're fiduciaries and we're very agnostic in our firm as far as which financial products work for which clients.
Okay. They're tools.
They are tools.
Yeah.
They are tools. And you don't use a screwdriver to turn a nut and vice versa,
Right.
not a wrench for a screw. So I think that life insurance is a very good play.
That's why my home improvement projects haven't gone so well.
Exactly. Yes. You're using a hammer as a screwdriver,
That's
right?
right.
Yeah. No, life insurance is awesome. And I think the biggest component that people don't realize about life insurance is it's 100% income tax free. So in a lot of situations, people say, my wife's got plenty of money, we'll transfer the IRA to her, right? Well, here's a problem with that. Is an IRA you have to take required distributions out of, right?
Okay.
If your spouse is not of age, in this case, David, it would be your wife. If she is not of age, she can still take money from the IRA if it's an inherited IRA, but it's still taxable. Okay. When you go from married filing joint to filing single, that drastically impacts your tax bracket for the worse. Right?
Sure.
Your tax bracket goes up substantially, even if you earn less money. So for her to satisfy her lifestyle from an IRA account may put her in an extremely high tax bracket, higher than you're in now because you're no longer married filing joint. So to receive a very large life insurance benefit, income tax free, and then have the ability to reinvest that into a different tax classification is very tax advantageous.
Yeah.
So life insurance makes a lot of sense for a lot of people out there. I just think that we kind of have to get over the insurance, the bad insurance ring in our head because it's really not as bad as people think.
Yeah, I mean, it definitely gets a bad rap, right?
does.
I mean, insurance salesman has just been picked on for many, many years, obviously.
Right.
But
You have car salesmen and then insurance salesmen, right? And then attorneys.
Yeah.
I'm just joking.
All the attorneys out there. What?
I know. I have a lot of friends that are attorneys.
But it is interesting. And also, I think people just don't like the idea of having to buy something that they may not use. And that can be a sticking point that people just...
I think so.
For any insurance, right? Like, I know it's there for when I need it, but in the meantime...
But we do love our spouses, right?
Right.
I mean, they're going to get the money.
And if this helps them...
Right. And if, both of you end up passing away in an unfortunate car crash or something, then the kids get it.
Right.
Right. So somebody in the family is still going to get the money and they're going to avoid taxes on it versus almost any other asset class. So I think it's a very good tool.
Asking a great question. It sounds like they're David. So thanks for sending that one in.
Thank you, David.
We love intelligent questions here on the show.
Yes,
and
we do.
that was on the list of intelligent questions. So if you've got a question for Frank, you can ask that. We might feature it here on the show. You can always talk privately, of course, about your finances as well. You can book a time to meet with Frank and the team by going to oliverassetmanagement.com. That is linked in the description of today's show, so you can find it easily. Just click that, schedule your time to visit, and you'll be well on your way to more financial confidence and better planning in the future. Frank, that's it for today's show. Thanks for all the help.
Good to see you, Walter.
Yeah, good to see you too.
Take care. Yep.
Thanks for joining us, everybody.
Thanks, everybody.
See you next time.
Bye.
Advisory services offered through Creative One Wealth, LLC, a registered investment advisor. Creative One Wealth, LLC, and Oliver Asset Management are unaffiliated entities. Licensed insurance professional. Respond and learn how financial products, including life insurance and annuities, can be used in various planning strategies for retirement. The information contained herein is based on our understanding of current tax law. The tax and legislative information may be subject to change and different interpretations. We recommend that you seek professional tax advice for applicability to your personal situation.